In 1645, the wealthiest street in Edinburgh's Old Town was sealed shut with its inhabitants still inside. Mary King's Close had been an address of goldsmiths, merchants, and lawyers, a vertical neighborhood carved 7 stories deep into the bedrock beneath the Royal Mile. By 1753, the entire street was buried beneath the new city chambers, erased so completely that city records stopped mentioning it by name. What makes this disappearance strange is not that plague arrived, but that the close remained inhabited for decades afterward. Its upper floors demolished while families continued living in the lower levels. They were trapped between earth and foundation, between the city above and the bedrock below. Today, reconstruction lets us walk through rooms that were deliberately built over, spaces the city chose to forget rather than destroy. I want to show you what those spaces looked like, and why Edinburgh chose burial over acknowledgement. Step through the archway. You enter from the Royal Mile through a narrow pend, a stone archway barely 6 feet wide. The close drops away before you like a stone canyon, buildings leaning inward until the sky shrinks to a ribbon overhead. To your left, a goldsmith's sign swings on iron brackets. The air smells of coal smoke and the Wen's open drain, but through a ground floor window you glimpse the merchant's parlor. Wainscoted walls, a Turkish carpet, leaded glass catching afternoon light. This is Mary King's Close in the early 1640s, at the height of its prosperity and prestige. The close was named after Mary King, daughter of Advocate Alexander King, who owned property there in the 1630s. Buildings were constructed of stone with wooden galleries and turnpike stairs, housing goldsmiths, merchants, and legal professionals in upper floors. Property records from 1635 through 1638 reference Mary King and Alexander King repeatedly, evidence of the family's prominence in this quarter. Mary King's Close descended steeply from the Royal Mile, with buildings rising to 7 stories on the downhill side due to Edinburgh's ridge topography. Edinburgh was built on a volcanic ridge, and closes like Mary King's were not merely alleys, but vertical streets. A single building's ground floor on the Royal Mile could be 5 stories above its back entrance. Daniel Wilson's Memorials of Edinburgh in the Olden Time, published in 1848, describes this vertical architecture in detail. Archaeological surveys conducted between 2003 and 2004 by the City of Edinburgh Council confirmed the physical layout Wilson described. The wealthiest residents paid premium rent to live highest up, closest to the sky and the Royal Mile. Those were the exact floors that would be demolished first, leaving only the poorest lower levels to survive entombment. The paradox was architectural and social at once. Status meant elevation, and elevation meant vulnerability when the city decided to build upward by cutting downward. That vertical wealth would make the close's later fate all the more calculated. In 1753, the Royal Exchange, later called City Chambers, was constructed directly over Mary King's Close. The project required the top 3 to 4 stories of buildings to be removed to create a level foundation. Rather than evict all residents, the city sealed the lower floors and left them inhabited, with families living in former basements and cellars. The demolition created a new street level approximately 20 feet above the original close, effectively burying the lower structures. Minutes of Edinburgh Town Council from 1750 through 1753, held in the National Records of Scotland, document the construction process. John Gifford's Edinburgh, part of the Buildings of Scotland series published in 1984, describes the Royal Exchange construction in architectural terms. But what makes the record strange is what happened next. City records show rent continued to be collected from Mary King's Close tenants until the 1780s, decades after the street officially ceased to exist on maps. Edinburgh needed flat ground for civic grandeur, but had none to spare, so it manufactured a plaza by amputating a neighborhood at the waist. It built over the stumps, creating a foundation of occupied rooms. The city did not destroy Mary King's Close. It bisected it, sealed it, and continued to profit from it. What remained below was not a ruin, but a shadow city, sealed beneath stone and silence. Close your eyes for a moment and descend. Imagine descending those stone stairs in 1760. Your candle throws shadows against rubble-filled doorways. The ceiling above you is not sky, but the flagstone floor of a counting house, where clerks tally shipping manifests, their footsteps muffled thuds. In your darkness, a voice echoes from deeper in. Someone lives 3 turns down the passage. The walls still bear soot marks from hearth fires lit when this was a merchant's kitchen, when windows existed. Residents accessed the buried close through a single remaining entrance via Allen's Close, descending stone stairs into permanent twilight. No natural light reached the buried rooms. Occupants lived by candlelight and relied on ventilation shafts cut through the city chambers above. By the 1790s, the buried close housed primarily the destitute, with up to 8 people sharing single-room dwellings. Hugo Arnott's The History of Edinburgh, published in 1779, mentions these conditions briefly but without detail. James Grant's Old and New Edinburgh, written in the 1880s, cites testimonies from former residents who remembered the buried streets. Some buried rooms retained their original fireplaces and carved wooden lintels, meaning the city's poorest residents slept beneath decorative joinery commissioned by merchants a century earlier. Families raised individuals in rooms that had once been wine cellars and storage vaults, spaces designed to hold objects, not lives. Yet these lightless chambers remained homes for 30 years after the street above forgot they existed. The paradox was not merely physical, but temporal. The past had not vanished. It had been layered over, repurposed, monetized, and finally abandoned. Eventually, even those last inhabitants left or were removed, and the close passed from lived memory into rumor. Picture standing in one of those excavated rooms today. The stone walls curve overhead, bearing Edinburgh's weight. You can still see the soot line from the last fire burned in 1780. The doorway leads not to another room, but to rubble. The close continues, but no one has cleared that passage yet. Somewhere beyond that blocked threshold, other rooms wait in darkness, intact, untouched, still holding the objects of their final occupants. The close was rediscovered during city chambers renovations in the 1970s, with intact rooms, fireplaces, and even wall plaster surviving. Opened to the public in 2003 as the real Mary King's Close, the site preserves multiple levels of the original street. Archaeological evidence revealed layered habitation spanning from the 1600s through the 1780s, with objects ranging from merchants' pottery to smaller personal items. Headland Archaeology Limited, commissioned by the City of Edinburgh Council between 2002 and 2003, documented these findings in detail. The Real Mary King's Close Heritage Site documentation, published in 2003, provides public access to these archaeological reports. One excavated room contained a leather shoe deliberately concealed in the wall, a 17th century protective charm meant to ward off misfortune. It was placed there before the plague and still in position when the room was sealed forever. The very act of burial that erased Mary King's Close from the city's memory also preserved it perfectly, creating a time capsule the open air would have destroyed centuries ago. What reconstruction reveals is not just the architecture, but the verticality, the way Edinburgh swallowed an entire dimension of itself and built upward as if nothing lay beneath. Visitors to Edinburgh's city chambers walk across cobblestones laid directly over Mary King's Close, never suspecting that 17 feet beneath their shoes, fireplaces, and doorways still wait in the stone dark. There are neighborhoods in every old city that chose amnesia over acknowledgement, places too inconvenient to remember. Mary King's Close survived because it was buried, not demolished, preserved by the weight of forgetting. If there is another lost place you want me to reconstruct, let me know in the comments.